Hello, welcome to Lore of Neverwinter. I got a lot of work done today. I did work, I did writing work, I even worked out. So I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling like I can play some Neverwinter. And there's one of my tunes that I've been wanting to move through, a re-released Rothé Valley. So the Rothe are creatures, sort of like oxen-looking things, kind of big cows that you can that people will raise, and that's what this valley is known for. The valley has some interesting history that you learn about as you're adventuring in this zone. And I actually covered a little bit of this zone before when Neverwinter removed this zone. They at one point went through and removed a whole bunch of areas from the game, and I ran around with my characters just kind of capturing what it looked like in case they didn't come back. This one did come back, slightly altered. The storyline is much shorter, as one of their sort of campaigns that they call them, where you are an adventure series. What do they call them? Let's take a look. We should probably jump into the game and we can see what it looks like. So I'm going to play this with my Drow because this is a Drow storyline. So we're going to fire Leandra in, and we're going to start at Protector's Enclave, where most of our quests begin, talking to Sergeant Knox. But the campaign we're doing is this Rothé Valley, which has 3 parts to it that are sort of like a battle pass type thing where you can unlock rewards as you go. That part's not really important to the story, it's just how it is, so there'll be another piece later. And they're adding various pieces of content over time, but primarily it looks like it's things like extra sort of group content that you do, like sort of not quests and explorable areas, but more like a skirmish or dungeon that you can do. So we're going to take this quest to meet with the Ranger Dassar Trubo. And the concept here is that we hear that something has happened with attacks by Drow on this valley. So we want to know why that's taking place. We're going to go meet up with this elf. Now, as I go to, and I was going to look up what the name of it. So this is technically, I think it's an adventure, really is what this is, though I guess it's in the campaign area now, but it's sort of older content that's come back. As we travel over here, we'll get a little cutscene. Where is it? Rothé Valley, right there. And as it's playing the screen, let's talk a little bit about the Drow in D&D. They've seen a lot of attention lately, in part because the Drow are sort of this really interesting piece that was added to the game where they're kind of the only, like, always evil race that is dark skinned, and they're only really the only major dark skinned race, and then they're also evil, and that's problematic. I hope you know why. So there's been a lot of attention on this as the game has tried to look at sort of what it's done in the past, how it's built itself, and how it should build itself for the future. So this Drow storyline really reflects where we were with 4th edition, where the Drow are just foes. Very recently, D&D has told us that the Drow are actually quite a diverse group, and that some of them have been lied to by their queen and goddess, Lolth, and she has sort of confused them all into believing that they are the only ones, that everybody follows her, and that's what we've heard as Drow stories. Okay, fine. That seems like a really thin excuse, but there were all these good Drow and hidden places that we didn't know about. But that is what D&D is going with today, and that's I think there are really good conversations here. There's no one way to do things, but it's an ongoing conversation we're having about how one should portray races or ancestries, species that have been historically assigned as evil. We're talking about orcs, Drow, any of that. And especially where they have any sort of racial or nationality that is tied to the origin of why these creatures were built the way they were, designed the way they were for D&D. So that's an ongoing conversation. I'm not going to cover it in great depth beyond what I just said. We're going to just see what the content is here in Neverwinter. We're going to talk about the lore of it in terms of the in-game lore, as well as think about kind of if I were doing a home campaign that used some of these concepts, would I dig it and what would I use from it? Drow are attacking during the day. What is happening? So one of the pieces of lore about Drow is that they lived Underdark. In the Underdark. So these are the big caverns and tunnels that are riddling underneath the surface of the world. You think the world is just kind of your world, but no, deep underground, there are enormous caverns linking all over the place, and all kinds of civilizations that live down there, including the Drow, who retreated there when the surface elves were attacking them. And it's said that because of sort of the radiations and so on, they changed in nature, and of course Lolth, being the evil queen that she was, corrupting them. So the idea is that Drow are so used to the dark that when they're in daylight, they suffer penalties, and that's mechanically shown in the D&D game, where you have penalties to attack or different things like that, depending on the edition of D&D. So here we're told that they are attacking during the day, and that's very surprising. And they have sent some scouts out, so we need to go check out what's going on with the scouts, find the rangers, and figure out what's going on. There's this little sort of setup here where these elves are looking into what happened. There will be a number of sort of lore pieces that come across, but it's worth kind of just going through as we go around here and look at this valley. It's a really beautiful, beautiful zone. And we'll immediately see there's something going on there with this sort of spider web, purple spider web thing going on there. That is actually a... well, I thought it was the actual battle encounter, but no, I guess it's just representing how the Drow, which we can see here, have sort of created a arcane web of some sort that is covering the area. And the idea is that this lets them come out during the daylight. We are looking for these bodies that we're going to examine. And I think a lot of what goes on here at this quest is actually quite cool, right? So the idea that you're going out and you're going to see, hey, what happened to the missing rangers, the missing scouts that we have, and you're going to find their bodies are riddled with arrows, and in fact, you're going to find some Drow. Here's like a taskmaster and all this stuff here. So I'm going to defeat these all pretty quickly because they're... but I do have to take down a certain number of them, as is typical these quests. I have to defeat 8 attackers and find 4 Drow. So here's another one, and you can see all the arrows in there, and like ranger can't be saved. And I'm going to fight some more Drow here as I work my way towards another of the bodies, saving the commoners. One of the other aspects that is problematic with Drow is that there tend to be a lot of storylines that sort of paint them as being, well, they're slavers, so they're enslaving people, so there's a whole slavery track that you can't avoid if that's a subject that makes you comfortable, which makes a lot of people comfortable. So there's going to be some of that in here, just so you know. I thought I was the last one. So we find a living ranger, and they tell us that the Drow are capturing people, and this Drow is going to keep on their watch because they're super cool, and they're not going to give up. And let's see, I need to find another Drow, which is over here. So we'll head over this way. And I still need to take down 5 Drow attackers, so we'll just start doing that here. The Ranger class, which is what I am, I'm playing a Drow Ranger, just like just Warden. The Ranger class is kind of neat in the game of Neverwinter in that you can be an archer. Like right now, I'm shooting things with my bow. But you can also hit the tab key and you swap to melee, and you kind of do cool like moves with your weapons, that your sort of swords, that your what do you call it? Your swords, daggers, depending on whatever you equip visually. But it's basically daggers. So I am taking down these. I think this should be the last Drow I need to take down. I have done it, completed my quest, and we are directed to go speak to somebody here who can. No, wait, I didn't get the body. Gotta get the body, or not a body. Living ranger. So here we are. Hey, Mike Shea is on. How are you doing, Mike Shea? This is, in fact, 1D&D. It's all digital, and the new rule set will look exactly like this. It's a lot of D6s. So this Ranger, too, also survived, and they tell us that, I guess I'm famous. I'm the hero of Neverwinter, so woohoo, look at me. Heroing it up here in Neverwinter. And there's a tunnel that's going on here, and so that's very interesting. You know, who built this tunnel? There's a fun history about that. I think it comes up in a little bit. But we are directed here to talk to... Oh, yeah, and there's little lore bits all throughout there. I kind of love this. I always like the lore. That's why this show's Lore of Neverwinter. And there's a whole story here about this family leaving letters for other family members, which I think is super, super fun. No, Mike Shea, I am the only hero. All those other people running around this zone, I don't know who they are. They don't really exist. I am the only hero here. So in this letter... It's like the grandson Imbros writing to the grandmother, stop sending assassins after the family. You have no one to blame but yourself for driving mother to flee, for not sacrificing father. You cannot blame either of them for not wanting to turn. Your dynastic politics have no meaning for us in Neverwinter, etc., etc., etc. Your last band of assassins were slain with the aid of an elven paladin of Corellon. Her name is Irisha, and the two of us will be wed next spring. So your efforts have been for nothing, I suppose. So this is kind of, not necessarily super clear, but what it's talking about is Corellon Laurenthian is sort of the head of the pantheon of elven gods. And long ago, he and his, some of the stories say sister, some of the stories say lover, Lolth, she became evil, sort of the slightly tired version of the story. And they fought, and she had to ultimately retreat underground with the people that she took and began corrupting them. So that's sort of the quick version of the Drow story, though it's being changed a little bit, I think, and probably we'll see it change in the future. So we have come here scouting for the Rangers, and we talked to this Drow who's helping out. Yep, so this guy's going to go back to the original guy who gave us the quest, but he's been able to pose as one of their spies and gotten into this camp, and we're going to go into this Drow outpost through a secret passage, get some weapons, arm the village so that they can fight back. And just so kind of this makes a little bit of sense, like this is sort of the main area of the village, right? But we're about to go into this little camp over here, which is really like the idea of going into a section of caves, not really the Underdark itself, but caves over to the side. And the Drow are I guess they're setting up like a forward base camp, and this is where they're forcing people to do work, forced labor, to get ready for whatever their big story is. We don't know yet what it is behind these reasons. Bunch of saps. So we're going to go in here and do a couple quests that go into this little zone. And what else to say about the Drow while we're in here? The Drow are known as being super cool spellcasters. They're very capable at that. It's kind of nice illusion here. Oh, there's a little plaque here. Okay, so this ties into our first. This is a bug that I really dislike, where when you go to the lore, it doesn't take you to the newest thing. So we have to go here and find it. But this is basically a wizard of the Ilian Bruin, which are the ancient elves, and how they created this illusion to sort of protect this area, and so sort of that's why this illusion exists. And I guess it's supposed to explain why the Drow don't come out this way, but they're already out there, so I don't quite get it. But what we're going to do is take down taskmasters that are outside these little cages, and deal with these prisoners and tell them, hey, get ready. I actually unlocked your door and I gave you weapons, and we're going to get ready to attack. Some of it's an idea that we come up with, and some of it's sort of ideas they come up with. So there we go. This is a zone with other people in it, which is kind of unusual. So sometimes you find that other people have taken out enemies, or that they're running around fighting. So there is one of Mike Shea's saps that he's talking about.
I didn't know better. I think you were mad to ask us to wait until you're ready.
Well, yes. Just stay in that cage with your weapon. Everything's gonna be fine, buddy. That's what I am telling you. Let's see, is there another? Oh, yeah, I gotta get weapons. Get me the weapons. Get to the chopper. Okay, so we have more weapons. I think there are more weapons over here. Where are more weapons? I need more weapons. Oh, enemy Drow. Drow assassin. One of the things I like about how they do the Drow in this game is they often have them like hiding in places you don't exactly see them at first, and they spring out and attack you, which is very Drowish. Hats off for that. More weapons. I have all the weapons I need, but I have one more leader I need to rescue. Let's go get a leader, see if I can avoid aggro with these dudes. I don't think I avoided the aggro, but... Ow. I am Drizdord and...
We'll be ready to help you when the time comes.
So, good. We've got everybody ready for the attack. We've given them weapons, but left them in their cages, because that's the kind of hero we are. And now we are going to go back to... I forget what the guy's name is, through the illusionary wall, and tell them that we're ready for the special attack. Special attack. So we talked to Imbros, and now he's going to give us the night raid. So we're going to go in the dead of night and launch this. I don't know why somehow we could get into this place. This is always the funny things about video games. You can get into the place, murderize people left and right, give everybody weapons. But no, we got to wait till night to launch the attack. I mean, I was just there, but okay. Loading screen, coffee break. Oh, that's tasty. Yeah, so Mike Shea was mentioning in chat just now how we have this D&D 1 or 1 D&D that is the new version of Dungeons & Dragons that's being created, sort of a 6th edition of the game, and it is going to possibly change things like lore, so it'll be really interesting to see that part of it. So Imbros has kept telling us basically, hey, you're ready to go, but keep in mind this Warden Malagath is going to come out, and they're going to attack us once we get going, so, be prepared for that. So I am prepared for that. So now what we're doing is we are taking down the bad guys, as usual, and again, I tend to gloss over these fights. Every now and then I'll show off like what they do, but I tend to just beat everything down, because combat is the least interesting thing. So we're freeing people, and one thing that's kind of neat is they will actually come out and fight for you, which I think is really neat. And they'll like take down enemies and all that. And you can help them or just let them run around and attack as they seek their revenge on their captors. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to run over here, see if I can run past these guys, but they'll probably chase me. Hey, look at that, a Drider. Later, I think one of the things will give us lore on Drider, one of the little info boxes. But Drider are kind of neat. So first of all, they look amazing. Like I just love how Driders look. They look so cool. Spider bottom half, and then above this thorax, you've got the Drow place. And what's neat about the lore, there was sort of confusing lore in the past. And one of the things I really like is I think it was in 4th edition, they decided let's go with both things. That sometimes a Drider is a monster, or is a Drow. Sometimes a Drider is a Drow that has been rewarded by Lolth by turning them into Drider form, because Driders are sort of more powerful. But other times, the Drider is being actually punished and being put into Drider form and sort of forced to serve. So it's a kind of interesting way of having it both ways, which I kind of really appreciate, because they are stronger as Drider, but apparently it's sort of a little bit of a torture to be one, according to the lore. So I think that's kind of cool. I like that idea that it can be both things. So we will open this prison gate, and we'll come over here and open another prison gate. There's another little bit of lore we can get inside once we open this. Oh yeah, and opening this triggers Malagath coming out. The forces that I have freed will begin to soften her up. But there's a body here, which is kind of cool, because what it turns out is they actually took down this slain Drow priestess. And so you get to hear that there are so many prisoners that they can rebel, and that kind of is always dangerous for the Drow. So I think that's kind of cool. Neat bit of lore. And now they're all fighting Malagath the Warden. We will join the fight as well. She is no match for our combined forces. Ow, she paralyzes me as I say that. Yep, so once we take her down, we have completed the quest, the night raid. So here we are in the dead of night. And this is interesting. Why did we attack in the dead of night? Literally the worst time to attack a Drow camp, but that's what we did. We can now leave the night raid and get back to our friend Imbros. There he is.
I heard stories of your heroics, but
yes, indeed.
was a sight to behold. I have no doubt the villagers...
So then the idea is sowing unrest among the elite houses of Menzoberranzan. So what this means, it's kind of a fun piece of history that way back when R.A. Salvatore, an author, was being asked to write a novel. He basically, on a phone call in the middle of trying to like prove that he could write this and that he had something good to turn in, just made up a bunch of ideas, including this name Menza Baranzan, and the idea that it had these bunches of different drow houses that were all competing with one another. Literally like tore it out of his head on a phone call while talking. And the person was like, that sounds great, write that. He's like, sweet, now I got to make that. But what came out of it is really quite cool, and it's the idea that the Drow have all of these competing houses that compete against one another for Lolth's favor, and that constant strife allows for a lot of opportunity for adventurers to kind of infiltrate a Drow city that otherwise would be like impossible to infiltrate. It creates change and upheaval, and all of the story that we're seeing here is about House Zorlaren, which is one of the major houses of Drows. There are major and minor houses. So what we're kind of doing is digging up what is the reason for House Zorlaren doing all this, and what's the history of Rothé Valley. So now we're going to find the mayor who is hiding out, Morgan Gunderson, who is a former adventurer, and I guess that's why he survived. So we're going to go through this tunnel and find our way through there. So this really concludes this, and this is kind of emblematic of what's been done in these revised zones. Before, there were a lot more quests here. Like, you can see this sort of grayed out area here. Like, I didn't do anything here. There's a heroic encounter, but there's nothing really to do here. And there used to be a bunch of quests that took you kind of throughout here doing various things. So this is all streamlined, so you can just get through this relatively quickly. We go into this area, which is kind of neat, little underdark tunnel. And this was magically excavated. I think somewhere we get lore. I don't remember if the lore is around here. I'll just run around and get into trouble and see. Oh, that hurt. I think there is some place that tells us about this, but I'm not sure. See if I can unlock it. We take down these folks, and there used to be a secret door here, or some sort of door, but I guess that's gone. Okay, so I think they removed that. I wasn't sure. I've always just run by it, but I thought for the video I'd find out. Maybe it's around here. Let's see. Yeah, yep. Boop. Phase spider's always cool. They jump around. It's a really neat monster and fairly challenging. It's challenging in 5th edition, and it's been challenging in other editions because, you know, you go to strike it and it's not really there. It's somewhere else. And I like how they represented the game, kind of making it like waver and look kind of neat and weird. That is nothing. We do have a little secret area here, but no, it's not. It used to be sort of it was more secret before, but okay. So no lore or anything like that there. Somewhere it does inform us that this whole tunnel was excavated by a wizard leading to this valley. And there's the cool valley. So in this zone, it's where, you know, if in the other area was sort of a few houses and they were growing or raising the cattle, in this area is really where the city is. And so we're going to go into this village and help the mayor in this part of it. No, I guess it does tell us some stuff here. Let's see. Rothé Valley. Yeah, the history of the tunnel. So in 1429 DR, overnight this tunnel just shows up. They thought it might be the effect of the spell plague, but it was actually a traveling wizard who had built it in order to win a bet with a local farmer that I guess he could do it when he had had too many drinks. So there you go. That's the lore of that tunnel. So I meet the mayor, and the mayor tells me, enter the spider's nest because they've gone into these homes. And yeah, it's pretty bad. But what I like story-wise here, right, is sort of like, you know, if you think about sort of what this was like, this is actually a really simple story that you could run as a campaign. Get hired by some elves or locals or whatever you want to look into why suddenly the Drow are attacking out in daylight. You show up in this valley and you find not only dead scouts who have information, but also, and I don't know why they don't talk about this in this part, but also that there are these weird magical sort of arcane webs, purplish in color, that are spanning the valley, preventing the sunlight from being as bright as it should be and allowing the Drow to operate in daylight, right? So you might think, okay, how can we take down those areas? We got to learn more. And you talk to this Drow who says, hey, there's this little side garrison that has a bunch of captives, but if we could free them, we could take out that force and prevent them from coming in and attacking us from behind. So let's go in there. So you go and you do that. And then you go to see the mayor through this tunnel, which is a little kind of interesting lore, sort of funny lore. And you talk to the mayor. Now the mayor is like, hey, help us clear the town of the problems. And by the way, also we're going to end up finding out what is it that they're really up to here and what's going on. So to do that, we're going to go over here and we'll see these little generators there. Those will come up later. These like purple web generators. They are creating that arcane problem. Oop, lots of spiders. Let's see. Is this? No, it's not this quest. I need just to get to the nest. Here we go. Oop, yeah, made it. So this nest is going to be a huge spider fest, which is kind of cool, right? So one of the things that I also like about Drow in terms of encounter construction and sort of adventures and campaigns is that the Drow have a number of obvious allies like spiders and other Underdark creatures, and so they're a really neat way, or Darrow. So they're neat ways to introduce the Underdark and Underdark denizens to players. I also like this concept of like, you know, you come into a house in the village and they're giant holes that take you down to this sort of area. Yeah. And so we are going to go through their egg sacs. Egg sacs are kind of fun. If you don't kill them fast enough, then they produce a bunch of little eggs, which is unfortunate for us. There are tons of little spiders. The spiders in Neverwinter tend to do a couple different things that are all great fun. For example, slowing you with a web, or jumping on you from afar, kind of fun. Dying and producing more young, always kind of cool. And they have different names and stuff. These all come from like the rest of Neverwinter monsters. They come from the 4th edition concepts. 4th edition, I really love how it had tons and tons of different types of monsters. So, you know, you didn't have just like a large spider. You had a tomb spider and all kinds of other types. And some of them were things that existed before, like phase spiders, but a lot of them were just kind of new, cool types of spiders that they came up with to, you know, poison fang or whatever, and like what is this, venomous creeper, right? But that kind of monster diversity just keeps the game interesting. I really dig it. Same thing with the Drow. You know, the Drow aren't just Drow. There's Drow warriors and Drow priestess and this, that, and the other, all kinds of different types. And those all represent the different monsters that existed at the time. So you can see, you know, we started in a village in like the top level of a house, and now we work our way through the Underdark, finding all these egg sacs, which gives it a kind of creepy horror aspect. There's the blood swarm because I didn't kill it fast enough. And I think that's all really fun, like really neat idea that to play with. Like this is a cool, you know, you could just take these concepts from the Neverwinter game and just go with it. You know, you're saving these people, you're figuring out why they're down here, and you know, fighting both Drow and just tons of spiders in this sort of spider-filled area. It's a neat idea. And we're going to see that this, you know, sort of spoiler towards the future, but this is going to tie into probably the next set of stream I'll do, but there's a whole storyline about the Drow and what they're up to, kind of involving the Far Realm and Mind Flayers. So that's another thing about a storyline like this, is it works really well towards setting up a more complex story. I like little details like this, like, oh look, there's a treasure chest through this webbed area. That sounds great. What could go wrong? Oh look, there are spiders that just dropped on me. Kind of fun. But then you can get to the treasure chest. And I like that there's sort of a hole up above, so the idea that, you know, to remind you that, hey, you're underneath the village, right? And like you could, in theory, you know, get up to there. And that's where they jump down onto you. Very cool concept. Of course, if you do that in an actual D&D game, you got to prepare for characters to climb up there, and maybe you don't want that. So keep that in mind when you design things. So now we start seeing like we're getting into a cellar, which is kind of cool. More egg sacs, more blood swarm. Apparently my ability to kill them fast enough has gone away. Tomb spiders. And you know, Neverwinter always kind of has to deal with the fact that it's not like a typical game, you know, a typical tabletop game where you kind of you know, anything can happen in any way you imagine it. But in this game, it's got to be bound by sort of its concepts, the mechanics of it. And so, but it does things like, you know, introduce a little written warning. And this is sort of back when this tavern existed. The idea is that a family member left a note saying like, the Drow believe you were behind a raid on their outpost that left one of their leaders dead. They used magic to find of all of us related to you and gathered us here to lure you in. The only one I haven't seen is my cousin Sella, and with her half-elven blood, I cannot imagine she still lives. Never doubted your stories, but even in your prime, you wouldn't have a chance against what you've been waiting for you. You haven't seen the vast and bloated spider they call Lolth's daughter. So it's kind of a way to... It gives a little of the story, right? And I'll just go ahead and say, which is that the story is that the Drow have actually periodically sort of farmed this area. There's farming within farming. People come here, settle the valley. The Drow come in, get everybody. A couple hundred years later, they spread some sort of stories somewhere in a town, and people come in and settle it again. And then the process repeats. And this is what you can do when you live as long as elves do. And so some people actually sort of knew about this or thought this was the case or had found some data about it. And so there was this sort of, that's what that letter's indicating. And then we also got a little bit of advance warning about the kind of terrible end threat we're going to find, this bloated daughter of Lolth. So we'll see that spider at the end of this spider's nest area. So I like that idea of leaving a note that both explains a little bit of the concept and also teases the concept of, or teases the presence of the end boss and what we're going to find. I like things like how this drow will spray daggers, but you get a chance to elude it briefly before it fires off at you. All right, so yeah, and some more kind of cool. We're back down in the cellar level, still kind of helping get people away from the spiders. So we'll slash away at this spider. So many spiders. And you can imagine, you know, if any of this feels a little long, you can imagine how long it actually used to be when there were way more quests to this area. But, you know, when these areas were released at the beginning of Neverwinter, the idea was to keep people busy for a really long time. And then eventually you find that people are sort of too busy, so you got to get rid of it. So here we're getting to the end. We go back up to this tavern through this little basement area, and we meet Daughter of Lolth. That is pretty scary looking spider. I mean, I should have said to some people who don't like spiders, hey, there's lots of spiders in this. But I love spiders, so I probably didn't think of that. I'm the kind of person who finds a spider in their house and carefully transports it outside so that it will continue to eat all the bugs that I don't want to have around my house, even though I like bugs too. So here we are fighting the Daughter of Lolth. She does some cool, like, you know, attacks. She webs the whole area so we can't move very quickly. And I like the detail of how, like, the web will kind of, like, grab onto me and you can't, you know, move as fast. But that's good enough. Yeah, we will now take down the Daughter of Lolth. Victory is ours. Oh, some blood swarm. So we take down the Daughter of Lolth and the blood swarm that came out. There is a last bit of lore we can see up there, so we'll go pick that up. There's also another like chest somewhere, but that's not too interesting. Where is it over here? I like all the webs everywhere. Nice atmosphere to it. So this takes us to Sella, who was mentioned in the previous letter. So it's kind of, again, sort of, you know, providing information. Uncle Gunderson's old adventuring stories. Yeah, and then a customer arriving that looks like a drow but dressed strangely. So I guess that's when the invasion started. So we get out of the nest. And it's always funny when you have like other quest things that are around, but you're supposed to ignore them for now and pretend you don't see them. I'm gonna run past these guys and try not to get killed. Where am I? I'm lost. Oh, I'm very lost. Here we go. Back to the mayor. This area has two heroic encounters that are pretty similar. You fight a bunch of of enemies. So let's see, next quest, destroy the shroud spinners. So this is where we get to what causes the magic that forms a giant web and shrouds the home in darkness, which is what allows the Drow to come here. So here, finally, we're going to destroy these. And there are these special Drow priestesses called Death Weavers, and they are creating this ritual. So we're going to take their ritual books and learn about it and basically shut it all down. So it's kind of an abbreviated, compacted quest to do that. I will also walk through this so we can see what the heroic encounter looks like. So this is sort of a big encounter where we're supposed to work with a bunch of other players. A whole bunch of Drow come to the defense, so it is pretty serious. It's not an easy one to do. At least you can't do it solo, or you generally can't. And we're going to take down this empowered shroud spinner that's creating that giant thing of darkness. Driders show up, all kinds of other things like that. They deal a lot of damage, as you can see. That's why I'm losing all my hit points. Yeah, there isn't a huge benefit to doing these, but, you know, it's a fun idea story-wise, the concept of this shroud spinner, kind of that there's a, you know, maybe there's a big central one, so you could do the quest that we're going to do, but then you have to go and do the, you know, also take out this big fulcrum one that is, you know, must be taken down in order to really undo them all. I don't know, something like that. It's a decent concept. I like it. I'm taking a lot of damage. I'm drinking healing potions to try to survive. All the shrouding, all the spinning. A lot of times there are a lot of players, and this can go very quickly. Right now we've got something like 5 of us, something like that. You can see spiderwebs grabbing onto me, so I can't move away very quickly. And spiders will jump on you. There's some jumping spiders that are kind of cool. Toss you to the ground. Now we've just about got it. And once the shroud spinner's down, then all the other Drow disappear, and we have victory is ours. Yay. All right, so let's go do what we need to do, which is take ritual books and take out shroud spinners. So we'll do that one since it's right next to us. Then we'll go back into town and do the rest. Dun, 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 dun. So this is basically kind of quests you can do all at once. You're taking out the Drow, Death Weaver. You're taking out the little purple device, the Shroud Spinner that creates the shroud above us, of darkness. And you're getting the ritual books, which I guess the idea is that they sort of help them, I don't know, help us understand how to stop it, something like that. It's not really clear, but... Okay. Take that. Bum, 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 bum. Lather, rinse, repeat. All right, we completed the shroud piece, but we still need 1 book and 1 Death Weaver, so we will go find another. Oh, look at that. Death jump spiders up on the rooftops that jump down. That's kind of cool. Oh, I am not in the right mode. Okay. And the ritual book. Dun, 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 dun. And then, so this is kind of neat lore, which I'm going to run away before I look at, but what it refers to is that, that's the dead-end passageway, I keep running it down. In this story, this is the kind of bigger task that the Drow are doing, the kind of bigger goal that they've got. Let's go to... Recovering the Drow ritual books revealed the depth and breadth of the strange rite which the Drow are attempting to enact. Lolth's priestesses are attempting to weave a web of magic from the Underdark up to the surface and all across the world. The web is meant to ensnare the arcane power that has raged and controlled ever since the spell plague, and craft it into a new weave of magic, a weave under Lolth's control. So this is really what the story is all about, and it ties into a huge campaign that Dungeons & Dragons had during 4th edition, which was all about the Drow and how they were trying to, post-spell plague, take control of the weave that creates magic. So all of magic exists because of what's called the weave that sort of permeates and ties things together in the Forgotten Realms. And to use magic, you're sort of pulling strands of the weave sort of magically and weaving spells into being. So all of the things that a spell has to do, whether it's a magical component or arcane gestures, any of that is tying into the weave, and that's only possible when it's situated correctly. There are various fail-safes to kind of control it when something like the God of Magic dies, which the goddess died, Mystra, during the spell plague. The Drow were sort of trying to take that over so they could be in control. And a number of groups have tried to do this in the past. So that's what this is tying into, and that's sort of the big reveal of what's going on. So if you're using this idea for your campaign, that can be kind of the cool thing, that this isn't just like create darkness. Oh no, it's actually to control the weave of magic there. If you saw the series that's all about how Neverwinter used the concepts in Fizban's Treasure of Dragons to create these sort of new Dracoliches, that was also about the idea of using Shadowvar or Shade technology or concepts, arcane powers, to take over the weave as a sort of shadow weave. And that's kind of an interesting aspect as well. So a lot of evil groups try to take over the magic weave so they can control all of magic. So we have done these two things, and we've learned all about the Drow. So now we go to the end, the edge of the Underdark. There's a Drider named Sarkhan Is. He is in charge, and sort of the key to it is that if we can take that one down, then Houses Orlaran will be weak enough that the other houses will come in and attack. And that's sort of a kind of interesting aspect to stories of Drow, is that sort of like there's no way we could win except for the fact that if we can weaken them enough, then other houses will actually attack them and prey on them. So we go to this cool looking zone over here and go into what's called the edge of the Underdark. So here the idea is we're actually going into the sort of higher, taller area, the closer to the surface area of the Underdark, and where the Drow live. And this is the last part, by the way, of the quest. So this will end our experience here. Completes this quest in this adventure zone. But we're going into the Underdark to sort of the area of Houses of Orlaran where this, I don't know if it's truly like Houses of Orlaran, but an area that Houses of Orlaran owns that they're using to get up from there, from the area they control, into Rothé Valley. So when we go down there and take them down, then that's gonna weaken them and force them to stay in the Underdark and allow us to control the surface again. But if history is any indication, the concept is that we will see them again because they regularly come and prey on this area. So hopefully Neverwinter will be a little smarter and educate people that, hey, you've got to be on the alert because otherwise raiders will come here. So again, we see prisoners here that we can help out. We get to free them. Lots of Drow warriors here. And one of the things I like is this is a really kind of neat way to see like all of the architecture that's based off of different D&D books that over time. A lot of these designs, like if you look at these pillars, like this really goes back to the very first Drow adventures art that's found in the old Fiend Folio book for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And then art and concepts that are in various Men's of Bronzen books that are in things like Vault of the Drow, classic adventure from back then. Really kind of cool. Here we can find the history of Lolth, betrayal, chaos, and murder, and sort of the intersection with Corlan Laurentian. Talked about that before, so I won't go over it right now. I will instead try to take down all these various creatures here. Lots of egg sacs. The egg sac thing is a really cool concept. I mean, I love the idea of like, you know, that there's sort of this weird egg sac and maybe it starts, you know, in a video game it glows red so you know to attack it, but maybe in a campaign, you know, the idea of it like I'm getting hurt. The idea of it like the exec maybe makes a humming noise or something like that, something to let you know that something is about to happen, and it's going to of course conjure up ideas of the Aliens movies and things like that, and so then you know will want to do something about it before all those things come out and start biting at your face. Do not let them bite your face. Ooh, face biter. That's cool how it just popped out. I like that. You head towards the treasure chest and face biter comes to get you. That is pretty sweet. Oh, and looks like my companion. I'm, by the way, traveling with Regis, which is always good in any kind of Drow adventure. So Neverwinter MMO, you get to have a companion that comes along with you. And Regis is a pretty good one. Where is it? Here we are, companions. So I get to travel with Regis. And he has some nice moves that help me tear through foes quickly. Despite my character not being the strongest one. Another blade spider. And the idea is that all these, you know, almost all of these areas, there is a, you know, they're a prisoner that's near this area that's being held by these spiders for whatever nefarious reasons. Ouch. And so we are freeing them every time we take down these foes. Alright, I think we might have actually gotten this whole group. That is quite the evil area. I like these kinds of hostile looking builds here. The Drow are known for traps, so we'll see some of those start coming up here, which is kind of cool. And one of the things I like in terms of the counter building is they'll often have the creatures stand behind the traps, so like you move forward like I just did there and you'll trigger it. So like they'll kind of wait for you to approach, hoping that you'll trigger that if you didn't see it. So I triggered that one on purpose. So we bleed. Here we start seeing the outskirts of the city itself, which is super cool. So you can see areas there. Really cool looking bridge. I mean, that's a really neat, you know, place to be battling. You know, you really see the breadth of the Underdark. It just kind of goes off into the distance. We can't see the full size of it. That's a kind of neat idea. These kind of glowing rocks. There's like a water sort of down below that glows. Like that's pretty sweet. Yeah, it's really cool. You know, we're on this bridge. We would die if we fell, right? That's kind of cool. And we've got all kinds of drow that are guards and stuff like that, and spiders. I think that is cool. Yeah, so now we're going to go into another area of the city once we can get past this group of guards. Picking up all the loots. It's very easy to fall off the edge if you're not careful. What's this little like thievery kit? Okay. Ah, look at that. Drow assassin waiting to attack you from behind. Pretty sweet. I like that they just delay it just a tiny bit before they come out to get you and attack you from behind. Here's another little letter. And this tells us about the Driders. I already shared that kind of concept. The Driders, sometimes punishment, sometimes reward. It's a neat idea. And that's a nice, trap. That's a nice bit of lore because we're, you know, the final boss we're going up against is a Drider, so it tells us what to expect with this creature, with this foe. All right, so kind of further in. And I like the kind of way this works. Like you're kind of going into tunnels, into open areas, you know, in and out. Gives you a kind of feel for how different the Underdark is. There are more traps here. You can just barely see them there. So if I trigger them, spike trap, kind of cool. There's another one there. And here you can see, like, again, these drows sort of hang back a bit, hoping that I'll trigger various traps. Each class has certain skills available. Look at that illusion right there. It's kind of cool. And I like when they do these kinds of details. Like, totally optional. You don't have to come here. But you can come in here and find something. The Lost Journal. From a journal found in Hidden Chamber, 2nd of Leaffall, 1142 DR. We chased the Drow back into their tunnels, but were turned back at the edge of a vast city of the Dark Elves before we could rescue any of the villagers. So this is not this attack, right? This is like the last time that the Drow came. We tried to make our way back to the surface, but the Drow have closed the exit with stone. We're sorely injured and need to rest, but the Drow keep looking for us. We found a hidden spot. I've used my magic to create an illusion which should protect our hiding place. They're still searching. We've seen what comes to those they capture and have vowed to die before we let that happen. We'll just have to wait for a chance to escape. The world above must know that Rothé Valley is a trap, lest the same fate befall another village. So apparently they did not succeed, but I guess they left us treasure chests. So that's kind of cool. Oh, and look at that. A skeletal fighter comes. I guess they did not want to share their old loot with us. Ghostly rogue, zombie cleric. So always bad when, you know, the people who are good people decide to fight you because they became undead. But I guess that might happen in White Wizard. I like that. This is, I guess, what can happen if you die in an area near Lolth and your soul kind of becomes corrupted. I really like the decorations. I like that's pretty neat. That's a freaky little bit of wall art there. So kind of fun, you know, all these chests. Like, I mean, what kind of players wouldn't be super excited they find this, you know, illusory place and yeah, get excited about it, and you come back into this whole Drow area. Arachnomancer, great name. Did you get Arachnomancer's new album? It's amazing. Lots of little traps all along the ground. I'm going to evade them. Drow, or the Ranger class that I'm playing, lets you kind of lay traps down as well. These little green zones. So sometimes they do that, and if they move forward, they take damage. Kind of cool. I can hang back and use my bow. And then, of course, Regis goes and does fighting for me. So we're getting close. We got a little temple area we need to go through, and then we will be through to the final battle here. I like this area. I always like using height in adventures, and so I like this idea that these sort of spiders up above. It's not very far up, but it's a neat concept. And guys at the end, sort of like, you know, how do you want to approach it? In my case, I'm playing an archer, so it's not hard for me to do that. I can force them to all come down, and I can use my mount to clear them out. That's how we do it. But there are a lot of spiders. You can see that's quite the ambush that they had set up. Kind of neat. I really like, as I said, like just this whole kind of like using vertical areas like that that is my jam. Drow priestess praying at an altar, kind of cool. And I like this as well. You know, one of the things that's fun with encounters is sometimes you space them out, but sometimes you put them one next to the other, right? So we fight this whole long thing, and then hey, there's these priests right here at the end, and in fact, some other guys around the corner. So that all, you know, forces you to fight, perhaps with very little break, so you're totally exhausted and digging deep, using up all your resources when you're playing a D&D game. But yeah, so we got some. Let's see, what did the lore tell us? Something about the chain of command or something like that. Let's see, history of Lolth. Demon goddess Rothe was originally known as Arushne, elven goddess of artisans and destiny, lover of Corellon. However, she grew hungry for power, began to betray the other gods in secret. She formed a dark pantheon of her own in an attempt to overthrow the elven gods. Arushne was defeated and was transformed into a hideous hybrid of woman and spider before Corellon cast her down into the abyss. Banishment to the abyss was meant to be a punishment, but she thrived. Through treachery and murder, she forged an entire layer of the abyss into a new home called the Demon Web Pits. Hated by demons, spiders, and drow worshippers, Rothe has spent eons preparing her long-awaited vengeance against the world. And the Demon Web Pits is a classic adventure that was written many, many, many years ago. That is a lot of fun, though by today's standards quite loosely designed. But at the end of it, you attack Rothe, and that's a lot of fun. This also tells you about the kingdom of Elithir, which is where Arushne lived. How they turned to evil worship and what that all caused. And they took the name Drow for their own. They went down below, that kind of thing. Kind of neat little altar there. And one fun thing is you can slip behind it and get a treasure chest. Pretty cool. Good idea. What else? Let's see. More assassins. We are almost at the end here. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, one more. Here's another kind of raised area that's kind of fun. And while we battle these, I'll say that when I was a kid in really elementary school, I played through Demon Web Pits. Sometimes I ran parts of it. Sometimes we would share the load and someone else would run it. Looks like we're at the final battle with Sarkonis. And we met up with Rothe, which doesn't look that different from the Drider. Well, that's obviously male, but... and one of our characters in the party had psionics, the ability to kind of have mental capabilities. And psionics was pretty unusual. There was like a 1% chance your character would have it back in that edition. And what was sort of fun was that, you know, it really never came up. So the player was like, oh, sweet, you know, I have psionics. She has psionics. Immediately we go into psionic battle. And the way psionics worked back there, that's the end of that. The way it worked back then was that combat sort of took place in segments, and during the first like 10th of a segment, you sort of went into a micro round of combat. So it was like first round, everybody rolls initiative. The two psionic characters face off against one another. And so the player and Rothe go into psionic combat, and basically she just blows him away because her psionics are so much stronger than his were. So it was sort of like combat starts, and it was the fighter who was the psionicist. So it's like combat starts, roll initiative, psionicist drop to the ground with his head, you know, blood coming out of his head, out of his ears, because that's how fast the combat took place, the psionic combat. And he was totally defeated. So then the first thing everybody had to do was actually heal the fighter. So yes, we run through this town, back out. Theoretically, we have... Oh, I keep going into this corner. Theoretically, we have defeated all these people. Look at that. I like how they're climbing up ahead or up above. That's kind of cool. We have defeated all the drow and all the spiders. You didn't see those. Those are there for other players. We report back to Mayor Gunderson. And he says, the drow are at one another's throats. Now that Sarkon is dead, they know they're losing ground in Rothé Valley. Their expedition has begun to crumble. You're every bit the hero Nox says you are. Please take this reward of 20 silver pieces. Thanks so much. Yeah. And oops, I didn't mean to hit that. So we are rewarded, and we go to talk to Sergeant Nox in Protector's Enclave. So that's it. You can see if you look here, there used to be a whole other area over here. That area comes in, I think I showed it when it went, yeah, if you look at the old video, you can see what that looks like. It was used in the early Tyranny of Dragons content. It's a fun area to explore. But now we get to go back to Protector's Enclave and say to Sergeant Nox, you know, hey, thanks so much for sending us to the quest. Maybe you've got some sweet loots for me. And we are back at the city of Neverwinter, which we have been hearing is featured heavily in the D&D movie, which comes out in March. So that'll be super exciting. We have protected everybody against the Drow. We therefore are rewarded with all sorts of good stuff. And so I'm going to claim the reward to complete Rothé Valley. And that gives you some fun things. Some boon point and stuff like that. Sort of like leveling up, basically. But one fun thing is that you get this little spider companion, which is kind of cool. Gets to join you. So I will call it Charlotte, after Charlotte's Web. And yeah, so you get those benefits, Astral Diamonds, level up, all that kind of thing. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. Next time, what I'll do, I'm going to do some different videos like Success in RPGs, but next time on Lore of Neverwinter, what we're going to do is this same character will do part 2, which is to go from Rothé Valley, where we were just now, to the Whispering Caverns. And there you have an old series of quests that's still live in the game involving what House Zorlarian does next. So it's really part 2 to the story. So, stay tuned for that and hope you enjoy it. If you like what I do here, please consider supporting my work. I write adventures, I write supplements. Recent work includes the rules for collaborative campaign creation, for which you can see the image on the right-hand side. You can get that for free on alphastream.org by signing up for my mailing list. And you will also receive updates for my blog articles. You can also support me by checking out all these other titles I've written. You can find those on thedmsguild.com. A full list of all my creations, from board games to role-playing games, can be found on alphastream.org. Subscribe and you won't miss any updates for my upcoming projects. Thanks so much.